So Kert Rhodes is back for another episode. Welcome.
Thank you.
Hap-
Appreciate the invite.
Yeah, I'm. This will be a fun topic. You're
Yes, it
gonna.
will.
We've touched on this before, I think, but so today we're diving into and full disclosure, these are Kurt's.
This is my
Kurt's, yeah,
suggestions and
yeah. So
my top
we're
fives.
doing top 5 restaurants
Yep.
and top 5 golf courses.
Yes.
So if
Yes.
anybody
for
knows
the area.
for the area,
For the area.
yeah, it's hard to stick in
Right.
Palm Harbor.
I know.
Right.
I know.
And for anybody that knows Kurt, he golfs every single weekend. What, 36 holes?
Pretty much every
Yeah.
Saturday religiously, 36 holes. Yes.
So if there's anybody that knows golf, and you grew up in the area.
I did. I've been here since 73.
Yeah.
So I've been here for a few years.
So you're the man to go to.
I guess so. I'm not sure about that, but
We'll find out.
yeah, we're going to find out. We'll see what your audience thinks.
All right, so let's start with golf.
Yes. Okay.
What do you well, I guess we'll do 5 to 1.
5-1. Start on number 5.
Okay. What do you got?
So first off, number 5 is the Island Course at Innisbrook.
Okay.
So when I moved here when I was 3 years old, that golf course is just more or less being built. That whole facility, the whole resort, right?
Wow.
And obviously they have 4 courses now. I think they're going to be trimming down to 3. But the Island Course has always been very unique. It doesn't get the status as the Copperhead Course because that's where they play the quote unquote PGA Tour event.
Yeah.
But the Island Course is, I think, in my opinion, a little bit nicer for the most part.
Yeah.
It just doesn't have the amenities. That's why they can't have it there. But it's a great golf course. It's kind of tight and sometimes it's open. A few of the holes, I think, was it 5, 6, 7, and 8? They're very narrow, and a lot of people make a lot of mistakes out there because it's so narrow. It's kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
But just from that type of golf course, it's a little bit flat, but it does have some undulation there. So I enjoy it. I really do. And a lot of my friends that actually go there and play at the resort, they go, "Oh my gosh, I like the Island Course so much better than a Copperhead."
Oh, really?
So
And
the
the Island Course is probably more challenging than Copperhead, right?
It is because it's just more narrow.
Yeah.
Right. The Copperhead, you can kind of spray it around a little bit. It's a tree line golf course.
Mm-hmm.
So is the Island, but it's much thicker.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of weeds and a lot of low lying areas. So it's hard to score out there.
Yeah, I remember playing the Island. I mean, I played that a few times, but it's just a difficult. And I remember playing and just being like at the end of the round, or maybe it was like through 9, and I'm just like I'm tired. I'm mentally exhausted from hitting all these difficult shots.
Right.
I'm like, dang.
And 9's such an interesting hole, right?
Yeah.
You got to kind of lay it up before the lake, and then you got to hit it across the lake.
That's
and
right.
It comes
yeah.
off a side hill.
Yeah,
And
it drops
it's
down.
like, wow, it's kind of like that North Carolina, South Carolina feel, if you will.
Yeah.
So they got a few holes out there like that.
Yeah, I like it. So the Island Course.
Island Course is number 5.
Okay, I mean, that's a pretty good course at number 5. So I'm excited to see what you got here.
Exactly. So number 4 comes in at Bel Air Country Club.
Oh, okay.
Bel Air Country Club, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's been there since 1906, 07, 08, right around there. So it's been there for over 100 years. And they have 2 courses out there now. They just renovated one course. They just opened it up, I believe, about 2 months ago. So that the east and the west.
Okay.
And what's very interesting about that golf course, it's very flat. It's very linksy type of golf course.
Yeah.
But again, you're right along the water's edge.
Yeah, that's cool.
The Bel Air and the Clearwater beaches. So when you see those holes, it just gives you a really cool perspective of, wow, look at that. We're right on the water and we're playing this really pristine golf course. And the golf course I belong to, we have a reciprocal with Bel Air Country Club. So that's a good thing. Yes, it drops my rate a little bit, but it also gives us an option of playing these different golf courses that sometimes, well, a lot of people can't get on.
Yeah.
So it's fun. But the linksy courses, you don't have a lot of those, like true linksy, and that's what it's like. And I love playing it.
Yeah.
I love playing it. It's some really interesting par 3s.
Yeah, I've driven by. I've never been out to that course before, but I mean, it's beautiful out there, like you said, like being on the water and stuff. It's just really, really cool.
Get great amenities, great restaurant. So they do everything. They do everything right there.
I like it.
So that's number 4.
Number 4, Bel Air Country Club.
Bel Air
Again,
Country
that's
Club.
another nice course. So
Right.
let's see. All right, number 3.
You want to guess what number
Uh,
3 is?
no, I have no idea.
Okay. I'm going to go with Cypress Run.
Another one I haven't been on to, but
Okay.
I've heard good things about
Cypress Run is in Tarpon Springs,
Yeah.
just off of Keystone. And that course has been there for probably 30 years. The interesting thing about Cypress Run was it's across the street from Crescent Oaks. And a friend of mine at Crescent Oaks used to be the groundskeeper there. And this is back in the early 2000s. And he switched over to Cypress Run. And then, in my opinion, it exploded just because he had a lot more resources, a lot more money, a lot more everything that he could use toward the golf course. And you really, really made that golf course pristine. Very tight golf course. But I think one thing that sticks out with Cypress Run is the greens. They're just, I mean, I think every single time I played there, they're immaculate.
Yeah.
They're quick, they're
Top-notch.
fast, they're fair, but they're just immaculate. It's very nice putting on consistent greens. Every single green is at that same speed, and you really can, hit like a 10-foot putt, and you can just almost, if you hit it around the line, you're like, oh, it's going in.
Yeah.
It's like it's slow motion.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Cypress Run is really interesting. They have a couple quirky holes out there. I'm sure my audience is thinking, oh my gosh, number 11, which is a par 5. It's a zigzag hole. It's like, how do you birdie that hole when there's so many trees in the way?
Yeah. And I think, like you said, like having the greens like be consistent, like that really makes the golf experience like, better. It improves it, right? Like if the fairway's a little rough, then okay. But you gotta have good greens.
Nice greens.
You gotta have nice greens.
Yeah, and they're immaculate. They take care of their golf course. They rake the bunkers. They edge along the sidewalks, edge along the bunkers. So it's immaculate. It's good. 99%, probably 90% of the time, it's good.
Yeah.
They aerate sometimes, so it has little holes and punches, what have you. But for the most part, it's in great condition.
Yeah. So before we jump into number 2 and number 1, the last two, what I want to ask you, like in your opinion, like what makes a golf course great? Like is it the condition? I mean, like what plays into like making into this top 5?
Well, I think for me, it's kind of working the hole or the golf course backwards, and like we just alluded to, the greens. When you can sit there and put on very nice greens that are very immaculate, and then there's no huge holes, and there's grass not missing. It's just it's pure. That's great. The fringes are nice. They edge around it. They break all the bunkers, and there's no grass in the bunkers. And then you peel back into the fairways. The fairways are immaculate. They're nice. They're consistent. So maybe they're a little bit wet because of we live in Florida versus in the wintertime. There's like different types of grasses that they grow. And then you kind of peel back into the tee box. When you have a very nice tee box, it's very flat. There's no ovals, and you're thinking, my gosh,
we got a lot of ovals around
I'm
here.
down, right? So nice flat tee boxes. So that I think makes a golf course when you can look at that kind of that 1,000-foot view and go, wow, that's that they have the resources, but they also have a crew that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and takes pride in it too. I think
takes pride in it.
I mean, to me, like the tee boxes like that, like I'm even like some of the like more popular well-traveled courses, like they have those rounded tee boxes. I'm like, you can't just level that out like that.
Again, I'm sure it takes a lot of time just flattening them out.
That's true.
I know in time they probably had them flat.
Yeah,
and
maybe
in time
it's like
they've kind of just eroded.
For the rains or whatever. Yeah.
So they kind of slope down, and sometimes you get on the tee box and you're kind of leaning to the right, going, I'm like, oh, wait, hold on. Let me go back. Let me go to the left side of the tee box. It's more flat.
Yeah, you got to take a step back and like, okay, where's the level spot? Yeah.
Right.
All right, cool. So let's jump into number 2.
Number 2 is the Copperhead course.
Oh,
at Innisbrook.
Copperhead, going back to Innisbrook.
Going back to Innisbrook. Yes. Number 5 was the Island course. It is part of the Innisbrook challenge, if you will. But I think Copperhead just has that very unique experience, because if you go to the PGA event, and you walk around there for 3 or 4 days and you watch the pros play and you're like,
Mhm.
wow, this course is just immaculate and
Mhm.
everything is just, pristine. It's so green. You're like, oh my gosh, I got to go play that. So
Mhm.
not the conditions are not going to be always like that.
Right. Right.
But I think what I'm going to try to do this year, I think to come in the last week of March for 2024.
Okay.
Um, you can actually play a day after the actual tournament.
Oh wow.
So when they wrap up on Sunday, you can actually tee off Monday morning. They still got all the ropes out there, and they
Oh,
still got
that's
all
cool.
the events out there and what have you. But you can actually play the golf course,
Yeah, that's pretty cool to do
and you
that.
can really see and test yourself. Because normally, if you look at a course that you play on a daily basis, are they going to have 4.5 inches of rough?
Mm-mm.
Probably not.
Mm-mm.
So if you don't hit in the fairway and you hit in that rough, now you can really see how do these guys get it out of here? Because
Yeah.
you think you're on TV, you're like, oh my gosh, how does the guy not hit it out of that rough and hit it on the green? And he
Yeah.
just hit it 50 yards. And he could have hit 150 on the green. Put yourself in that situation now.
Yeah.
And you try to hit it up there and you can only hit it 30 yards. And you can't even get it. You can barely get it out of the rough, let alone into the fairway. So it's putting yourself in that kind of situation that the pros do it pretty much every day.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Have you played it just after the tournament before?
I have.
Okay.
I have,
Yeah.
and I'm trying to do it this year again. There's a kind of a waiting list. There's always a waiting
Yeah, of
list.
course.
But I have played it, and it is much more difficult.
Yeah.
I think the hardest part for me was when you do hit it in the rough, you better have a really good idea where it went in at, because
You can't
literally
find
you
it.
have to stand over top of the ball to
Yeah.
actually see it.
Yeah.
Now, the PGA is very, very lucky. Why? Because they have, patrons all along the side, and they can see where it is. So they have TVs and they have
Mhm.
spotters.
Mm-hmm.
On Monday mornings, they don't have those people.
Yeah. We don't get that
We
luxury.
have like foursomes, and you have your three other guys and yourself going,
Yeah.
okay, I think it went in here. And so
Yeah.
it's a totally different experience.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
I like
and the
that.
greens are, you're not used to greens that are being that hard, because usually they're receptive because they're a little bit slower.
Yeah.
But when they're really, really firm, you hit that green, you're like, wow, the ball just bounced like 4 feet in the air.
Yeah.
So
they're dried out a little bit. They're a little bit
dried
faster.
out a little bit. They're faster.
Yeah.
Those are PGA conditions. We're used to the amateur conditions,
Mhm.
right? So
Mhm.
much,
Yeah.
much different.
I like that.
Yeah.
Copperhead at number 2.
Copperhead number 2.
So just to recap, we got the Island at number 5, the
Mhm.
Island Course at Innisbrook number 5, Bel Air Country Club at number 4, Cypress Run in Tarpon Springs there at number 3, and then Copperhead at Innisbrook at number 2. And
Yep.
number 1, what you got?
Number 1 is, and ironically, I have never played it since the renovation of Pelican.
Oh,
Now, if you did not know this, for you and your audience, Pelican used to be the Bellevue Biltmore, or the Bel Air Country Club. I mean, yes, the Bellevue Biltmore.
Okay.
So they've been there for like almost 100 years.
So the course has been there.
The course has been there, and it's always been in kind of, not very good shape. It was always in kind of tough conditions.
Yeah.
A friend of mine actually used to be the GM there. We used to play there. So I know the course like the back of my hand. Now, some of my friends had played out there, and there's like, oh my gosh, this course is just pristine.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if you saw it, maybe the audience has, but they had the night golf with Justin Thomas, Ricky Fowler, and Tiger Woods, and I think Jordan Spieth. Those 4 played on, I think, a Saturday night or a Tuesday night.
And this was at the Pelican?
It was at the Pelican. That was the night golf. Yeah,
That's
it started
pretty cool.
at 7:00, and they went until like 9:00, and they had lights out there.
Yeah.
A few of my friends went out there, and they said it was just epic. It was so nice.
Yeah.
But the greens, everything's, again, it's a very linksy type golf course.
Okay.
There's not much rough out there at all.
Is it right next to Bel Air Country
No,
Club,
it's
or-
about a mile and a half down.
Okay. Okay.
Just south of there.
Okay.
But they dumped a bunch of money into that golf course. It's extremely private.
Yeah.
If I have my numbers correctly, I believe it's $50,000 just to join
Just
there.
to get, yeah.
But it might be even more now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
I heard some things like that it was, obviously a large amount of money, but then like invite only sort of thing too, right?
invite only.
Yeah.
The only way you can really, which is a good idea. A friend of mine approached me and says, "Hey, do you want to be a volunteer for the LPGA, which is in November?" Now, if you put in so many hours as a volunteer there, they will give you 2 greens fees. I think it's between like April and June. So
Okay.
you can bring yourself and a guest and go out and play Pelican.
Nice.
So
Volunteer
I'm
some
thinking
hours.
I'm going to do that
Yeah.
in November if it works out right.
Yeah.
So you have to put in like 15 or 20 hours
Okay.
to
That's
be
not
a
bad.
volunteer.
Yeah.
But
And so that's they have the I wrote that down too. The LPGA event out
I
there.
believe it's
Okay.
first or second week of November.
Okay.
And they did it. That was their first year last year.
Okay.
And it was a really, really good event.
Yeah.
A lot of good spectators out there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's number 5.
That's my top 5.
That's a great list.
Yeah.
That's
just for our general area.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of the courses, yes, they are private.
Private, right.
So I didn't really include any of the public golf courses because I don't think they really stand up to those golf courses, right?
No. Yeah, I mean, that's why I was curious. That's why I was curious to see what you're going to come up with, right? Because the public ones, there's really nothing that that you're right, that it compares to anything like this.
No.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, I think in regards to Innisbrook, it's not very hard to get onto Innisbrook.
Right. Right.
Cypress Run, you can get onto. So I think the only one that sticks out, which is number 1, is Pelican. It's very, very difficult to get out of.
Yeah.
But I've seen pictures on Facebook and what have you. It's very, very nice. It looks like a big piece of green grass all at the same height. It's very interesting. It's very tight grass.
Okay.
So it's not like kind of that fluffy grass and the ball sits up really high.
Yeah.
And the ball kind of sits right on top of that grass, but it's firm.
Yeah.
It's
interesting.
Firm, so
I like it. So the island, so to recap again, the island, Bel Air Country Club at number 4, Cypress Run at number 3, Copperhead at number 2, and the Pelican at number 1.
That's my top 5.
Solid list.
I hope people agree or disagree.
Yeah, let us know in the comments. What do you think?
Yeah.
Did we miss anything, or did Kert miss anything? Again, this is all Kurt's info. I'm just here, the messenger.
Right.
All right, so let's jump into the restaurants.
Yeah, let's jump into the restaurants.
Top 5 restaurants.
Again, just like the top 5 in golf courses. These are my choices. Yes, I've been to a lot of different restaurants. Some people are going to agree, or some people are going to disagree.
Yeah.
But I'll start with number 5, which number 5 I think is, in my opinion, very underrated, and that's Bascom's.
Bascom's, okay.
Bascom's.
In Clearwater, right?
Right,
yeah.
In Clearwater, just by the St. Pete Clearwater Airport. Yes, I love Charlie's Steakhouse. That's my favorite restaurant.
Yeah.
But that's too far away. I'm just trying to keep this general area.
Yeah.
Does Bascom's, kind of are close to Charlie's? I think so, to a certain degree. They have a really interesting atmosphere there. Their food, I thought, was extremely good. I've been there probably 5 or 6 times.
Okay.
Always had a very good meal.
Yeah.
They do things a little bit. They have their unique style, which I think a lot of chop houses, steak houses do.
Yeah, you kind of have to, right?
Charlie's and the Ruth Chris and one of you, they all have their kind of unique
sure.
style and what have you. But at the end of the day, what's on your plate is, do you like it? I've tried everything from different swordfishes and salmons to steaks and different appetizers, and all in all, very good restaurant. I think from a price standpoint, they're probably half the price of Charlie's for the most part.
Yeah.
On a lot of different things. And plus it's close to home.
Yeah, it's not too far. I've been there for I think some events and like networking things, or just different I think my wife's had some meetings there before, but and yeah, I remember the same thing. It's good food. It's great. Yeah. I think I had salmon there before, but
yeah.
All right, so Bascom's at number 5. What do you got at number 4?
Mosimos.
What is it?
Mosimos.
Mosimos.
You know where the Outback Steakhouse is in Palm Harbor?
Yeah.
Mosimos is back there in that little plaza there.
Oh, that's right. I'm like, I've seen this
name before. A lot of people
think,
where is that place? And they sometimes get lost. Again, a very unique restaurant.
Is that a steakhouse, or what is that?
It's more of an Italian-American kind of cuisine, if you will.
Yeah.
Very good food. Love it. again, close to home.
Yeah.
It's not one of those corporate
Yeah.
restaurants,
Yeah.
if you will,
Yeah.
right? Like the the Carrabba's or the Outbacks and what
Yeah.
have you. Some people like it, some people don't. I kind of steer away from that, and I think that's a very, very good restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Again, very unique, great food, very consistent. Been there over 10 times, and every time I walk in there, staff is great, very friendly, good food, and people look at price, right? How much do I have to pay for a piece of fish or a steak or a lasagna or whatever it may be?
Mm-hmm.
They want to see, a decent price where they're not being gouged.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Mosimos. Yeah. I've
Yeah.
never.
I thought I'd get a look from you. Like, where is that?
That's where my daughter's pediatrician is at. Isn't that
Okay.
plaza? So I'm like,
Yeah.
I know I've seen that. I've seen
Right.
that. I'm like, what is that? Okay. So Mosimos.
Mm-hmm.
I like it. All
Yeah.
right. Number 3.
Okay, number 3 is actually in downtown Palm Harbor, right off of Ultra 19. It's an old house. I don't know the exact history of that house, but I'm almost positive that house was built like almost 100 years ago,
Yeah.
and it was Casa Ludovico.
Mm-hmm.
I think you probably knew I was going to say that.
Yeah.
I would say and I don't like to be negative, but the only downfall of that place was they just pack them in.
Yeah.
I mean, they put you in an area where I'm at a table for 4, and a table 4 next to me. I mean, literally,
Bumping shoulders.
my hair is almost touching his hair.
Yeah.
So it's tight. But from a standpoint of the food is very good. Every time we go in there, the waiter or waitresses are very good. They're on top of things.
Yeah.
It's always packed. They have a valet.
Yeah,
which is very interesting.
It is interesting.
It's unique. It's different. So it's pretty cool how they took that house upstairs and downstairs.
Yeah.
And kind of turned it into a very interesting restaurant.
Yeah, I think that's what's really cool about the food is great, right? You got to have great food, but also just having that building, like the history of that building. I've in some of the Facebook groups, like the old I forget what different groups or whatever that I've joined that have some of the history, whatever. Like some people knew the family that used to live there or that built that house or whatever, right?
Right.
So there was like a well-known family that used to live in that house,
Right.
and yeah, so it's cool that piece of history for Palm Harbor is still there, and now it's a place for great food and friends and family to come together.
There is somebody, and I don't know who that person is, on Facebook that posts old Palm Harbor photos and Ozona area
Yeah.
and Crystal Beach area. And I remember seeing that house, and it's just there's like a little dirt road.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was by a railroad tracks, which back in the day was railroad tracks. I was back like in the 30s, 40s, and 50s, I think.
Yeah.
Right, that was a whole railroad tracks. I think that's where the trail
is.
That was the railroad tracks.
Yeah, right out in
and
front.
the house was kind of right across the street.
Yeah.
So it was very unique just to kind of see that and see those old houses. Plus, they have the old wooden floors.
Oh,
They have
they're like
unique-
original floors.
They say it's original.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it is, but it
They're
does look
old.
like it.
Yeah.
It looks like that mahogany wood.
Yeah.
Because when you walk on,
Yeah.
creaks and cracks
Yeah.
and makes all the different noises and whatever.
Oh yeah.
So, but they turned the place into a great little establishment. They've been there for, I would say, a little over 10 years.
Yeah.
Maybe.
And they're always busy too. It seems
They're
like
always busy.
Yeah.
You gotta go. You can't go at 7:00.
No.
I don't think you're gonna be able to get in.
Yeah.
Um,
you're probably just better off just getting a reservation. I think they have
I think you can go on reservations
Yeah.
on like open table.
open
what
table.
have
Yeah.
you.
I think they have that. I think we've
But
done that before.
We've done that many times, and we still waited.
Oh yeah.
So I guess that's not a bad thing. I mean, it's bad for you, but it tells you, they're pretty consistent on their food and their service because that's what people want when you go to restaurants, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
So,
that's a great one.
that was number 3.
Casa Ludovico.
Yeah.
All right. Number 2.
Number 2, I just actually went there last week to see a friend of mine I haven't seen in a couple years, and that's Mystic Fish.
Mystic Fish. Okay.
Mystic Fish, yeah.
Another one I have not been to, but I've heard
Okay.
great things about Mystic Fish.
Know the owners. Very, very good people. Very humble people. Mystic Fish is not a very big restaurant inside. They have this very small bar in the very, very back that holds maybe 6-7 chairs, and it's got little 3 tables on the side where you can just kind of eat and go if you like.
Oh, wow.
But then they have probably about maybe, I'm going to say 15 to 20 tables in there.
Okay. So it's a small
very,
spot.
very
Oh,
tight.
wow.
You know, got a couple fish tanks and what have you. I think
Cool.
they're both saltwater, if I'm not mistaken. But their food is very good.
Yeah.
Very good.
And that's right there on Tampa Road
and near Lake St. George.
Yeah, Lake St. George. That's
Yeah,
also
that place is. It won't disappoint.
Yeah.
It won't disappoint. They're sea bass. They're obviously the name Mystic Fish.
Yeah.
They really pride themselves on fish. They have a lot of different types of fish. Great little appetizers and what have you. So I've actually had the pork chops 2 times ago, and I was like, it actually blew me away.
Yeah. Is that good?
I was like, wow, because sometimes it's not easy to cook a pork chop.
Right.
Right? You want a pork chop, it comes
line.
to you on a table, and you're like, wow, look at that. It's so moist. It's
Yeah.
like a kind of steak. Not as, saturated, if you will, but
Yeah.
you cut it, it's juicy. It's like, wow, how do
Yeah.
you guys really do this? So they have good techniques.
I like it. Do you what's your have you gotten fish there before?
I have.
Yeah.
Sea bass is tremendous.
That's your
favorite? Swordfish.
Swordfish.
they
That's a little
have-
bit tougher, right? A little
Yeah.
bit firmer white
Yeah.
fish. Yeah.
Hogfish. They have a lot of different types of fishes.
Yeah.
I think what I think the uniqueness of what they have just with their fishes is they always have a different like dressing to it,
Mm-hmm.
and it's very unique to whatever, if it's a swordfish or hogfish or redfish or trout or salmon or whatever it is. They just have like a nice dipping sauce,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just with like capers or mushrooms on it, and
Yeah.
it's just exactly. It's making you hungry.
Yeah,
like,
I'm
you thinking
ready.
about it. Like, wow, I better go get some tonight.
Yeah.
I can grab my wife and go over there.
Yep.
But we love it. I mean, it's only 5 minutes from our house, but
Yeah.
from a price standpoint, again, I think it's very fair for the amount of food that you get. Plus with the atmosphere around, it's a very kind of quiet restaurant.
Yeah. Which is nice sometimes, right? to have
Right.
that, yeah.
It's not very obnoxious.
Yeah.
And it's very quiet. They got kind of light music in the very background. Most of the tables kind of have a wall, not a wall, but a kind of a higher wall in the back.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
blocks some of the noise, if you
Okay.
will.
Yeah.
But every time we go in there, we go on our open table and get our reservations. But every time we get there, like, oh yeah, we got your table
Right here.
ready to go.
Yeah.
So we're not sitting around waiting. And great customer service.
Yeah.
Their waiters and waitresses are very knowledgeable. Very knowledgeable. So, because if you're looking for something that may not be on the menu, but you've been there before, like when I had I think one time I had the swordfish, but I wanted the hogfish dressing or the sauce that came with it. Can I
Okay.
get that on the swordfish?
Yeah.
Oh, sure, we can do that.
Yeah.
So she knew exactly what I wanted.
Yeah.
And when it came to me in front of me, I was like, that's exactly what I wanted.
Yeah. I love that. That makes a huge difference.
It
with the
does.
experience.
It does. It does. It does. Because you'll pay, $15, $25 for it.
Yeah.
My mom loves it, and my mom's very, very cheap. Because she goes to early bird. She goes, oh my gosh, I got sea bass. It was $14, and I got 2 sides, and my glass of wine was like $6. I walked down there with $25 or less, and I'm like, oh, good for you, mom.
That's funny.
But, so it's good.
Mystic Fish number
Mystic
2.
Fish was number 2.
All right. So to recap real quick.
Yes.
Bascom's at number 5.
Correct.
Steakhouse. That's in Clearwater. Massimos
Mhm.
in Palm Harbor. That's number 4. Casa Ludovico at number 3 in downtown Palm Harbor. And then Mystic Fish number 2.
Mhm.
And number 1 is
The Parlor House Bistro.
Ooh, good choice. I like the Parlor House.
Okay.
Been there a couple of times.
Interesting enough,
That's in
is-
Dunedin for anybody that's
it is in
yeah.
Dunedin. It's right off of Main Street.
Yeah.
It's across the street from the Ace Hardware. In that plaza, I think there's a Planet Fitness or LA Fitness.
LA Fitness or whatever
Okay.
it is now. I think they changed, right?
They might have changed.
Yeah.
I think there's a McDonald's
Yeah.
detached in there,
Yeah.
but it's in that plaza. The first time I ever went there was just after COVID, and they just opened up, and we went in there, and a friend of mine told me, dude, you have to try this restaurant. It, it's very good. Now, the friend that actually told me, he's actually a chef, and he loves it as more as a hobby. He was a chef for like 16 years at
Okay.
really, really nice high-end restaurants.
Yeah.
He does it more of a thing at his house now, but you have to try the Parlor House Bistro,
Yeah.
and you gotta try the lamb. And I'm like, okay, all right. Just so we go in there, and again, it's kind of a smaller
Yeah.
restaurant. They got a nice big piano inside. I guess the owner and a few other used to be at a corporate restaurant, and they didn't want the corporate, stuff that goes with corporate.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to break away and start their own restaurant, and then boom, there they are. I believe the story was they opened up like 7 or 8 days before COVID.
Oh yeah.
It's something along that lines,
Yeah.
and then they kind of shut down for a couple months and then reopened. When they reopened, we went, and they probably have maybe 12, 15 tables. It's kind of like the size of a Mystic Fish, maybe a little bit smaller.
Mm-hmm.
They got a nice little kind of L-shaped bar,
Yeah.
which is nice.
Yeah.
But again, nice white linen on the tables, kind of separated a little bit from everybody else for the most part. And we had this, my wife and I had this appetizer, and it had some type of pickles on it, some type of jelly and crackers on it, some type of different hams and cheeses on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it had almost everything like from A to Z. It was very unique. It's like,
Yeah.
wow, how does that go with this?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that goes with that. And,
Yeah.
but it was a nice little board, and had a lot of great things there. I'm like, wow, this is unbelievable. So we had that, and we were dumbfounded. We're like, this is amazing. Let's just get a
Yeah.
couple more of these. And we'll just eat this.
Right.
But we're like, okay. My buddy told me I got to try the lamb. So I see it on the menu, and I was like, wow. And I asked the waiter, I said, waiter, my buddy told me to get the lamb. He goes, you won't be disappointed.
Mm.
That's all he said. And my wife, I think, had a steak or something like that. She had the steak. She loved the steak. She kept looking at mine. She goes, I don't like lamb, but that looks so good.
Oh wow.
And I said, taste it. So she had a bite.
Yeah.
And again, it had that kind of that sauce, right? It just
Yeah.
it just marinated itself with the actual lamb. And it was unbelievable. You know,
Yeah.
the bones all on it and everything. You peel back the bones. I mean, I felt like I was kind of a redneck, if you will, because I was licking the bones at the table. And she goes, I don't think it's
can't
really
do that
appropriate. I go,
yet, though.
man, it's so good, though.
I'm doing it anyway.
All right.
Yeah.
So that was very good. And dessert was off the chain. So
Yeah.
thereafter, we had a big party of like 15 people. And I was going to go to a different restaurant, and they couldn't get that table in time. So I was like, man, where do I go? And my wife goes,
Parlor
House. You got to call him. So I called him, and he goes, how many you got? I said, 15. He goes, all right, I'll make it work.
Yeah.
And I come in there, and he had it all set up, and
Nice.
we had a great turnout. I think 11 out of the 15 have never eaten there before. And
Oh,
now
cool.
they go more than us.
Yeah.
Because they love the restaurant so
Yeah.
good. So that's my number one.
That's a great choice, number one. We've been there a couple of times ourselves, and kind of the same thing. I think they had elk on the menu one time, and I don't know if that's always on the menu, but I think I had elk. And that was the first time I had eaten elk before.
Yep. I had the elk before too. And
yeah.
Again, it's a little bit gamey.
Yeah.
Right. And you're thinking,
It's
is it going
just
to be really gamey? And it's
Yeah.
going to be like that
Yeah.
weird texture, but weird taste. But didn't want to interrupt you. But the elk, yes,
Yeah.
that was my second
The
time
next
going
one?
there.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
The
why I
elk.
had the
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So you're right. It's like great atmosphere, really good food, great service, all the above. I think we've had that charcuterie board before too.
Yeah.
Same thing. It's like,
As you can probably see, some of these restaurants, I shouldn't say all, but some of them are kind of the quiet atmosphere.
yeah.
I think the Parlor House is very quiet inside. Mystic Fish is quiet inside. Casa La Vida I can get really out of control very
Depends
quickly
on the
because
night.
it's so loud in there.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you're on there on a Friday, Saturday night, it's going to be kind of obnoxious, if you will.
Yeah.
I think Bascom's is kind of quiet to a certain extent, and Mosimos,
Yeah.
depending on where you're sitting, I think. So they all got their, ups and downs. And so hopefully the audience agrees with me or disagrees
Yeah.
with me. But I'd love to see what the comments are and
I
what
know.
they say.
Yeah, let us know like what do you guys think of the top 5 golf courses in the area and then the top 5 restaurants in the area. I think there's some solid, and there's, I mean, anybody, like, everyone's going to have their different. I think the golf course is going to be tough, right? Like if you're not, if you're staying away from the public golf courses, the restaurants, I mean, we have a ton of great restaurants in here. You know, some of these, like I said, some of these I haven't even been to. I've been to 2 of these,
Right.
and you know, so that, and I you know, I would have a different top 5, right? But there's, I think that's just speaks to our area,
Right.
and like how much great small businesses, local chefs are in the area that are doing great things and cooking some good food. So
Absolutely. I
yeah,
would love to hear other people's suggestions, because
yeah,
there might be a restaurant there like,
I know.
what? I'd never heard of that. Where's
Yeah,
that at?
yeah,
And then you try it.
yeah,
There was one that I have not tried and I seen online, and I heard a couple good things about it. They're very limited on reservations, but it's called the Black Pearl.
yeah. In Dunedin.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So, I
that's
mean,
been on my list for quite some time.
okay, I looked at their website. They're very expensive.
Yeah,
Some people say they're not all that. Some people say they are.
yeah,
So, you know, it's to each his own. But I think they only have reservations from like 5 to 10 or 5 to 9
yeah.
on certain
It's
days.
limited. Yep.
They're only
Yep.
open, I think, 4 days out of the week,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
So the Feinstein group, I had Zach. He was like one of the first guests I had on the podcast,
Okay.
and so they own the living room too. So if you haven't been
Oh,
to the living room in Dunedin and want really good food too, it's, you know, it's a different style than the Black Pearl, right? But I've heard, you know, all their restaurants are really, really great food and
yeah.
good service and everything too. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of them that we can.
I'm sure there are.
Yeah.
We can sit here for probably 2 hours,
Yeah.
but it's going to make me more
I
hungry.
know. Now it's gonna be like, all right, we got to go get something to eat.
Good stuff.
Well, Kurt, thanks for being here.
Thank you.
We'll have all the, if anybody's interested, check out. We'll have all the links and stuff in the show notes, and then again, like we said, let us know what you think.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Donnie.